name is Cindy, and I also go by the name Flame Strikes Windfire on YouTube. Lately I've been doing a lot of wondering, and this wondering has brought about this concept of vlogging, and I thought that I would give it a try. So on my first attempt, I'm going to vlog about faith, because in the last couple of months there have been a lot of thoughts and ideas running through my head, and I thought it was time that I actually sit down and organize them and maybe understand a little bit more about why I believe in stuff. And more important question is, what do I believe? So, but it's mostly been about my faith, not religion, because those two things are two totally different concepts. Religion, as defined by Wikipedia, is the belief in and worship of a god or gods in a general set of beliefs explaining the existence of and giving meaning to the universe, usually involving devotional and ritual observances, and often containing a moral code governing the conduct of human affairs. While faith is the confident belief in or trust in the truth or trustworthiness of a person, concept, or thing. Thank you to my friend Matt. So I went to dictionary.com to pull up a couple more definitions of faith, because it's very broad. So what I had is 3 definitions that definitely spoke what I believe faith to be. The first one is faith is confidence or trust in a person or thing, or ability of person or thing. The second one is belief that is not based on proof. And the third one is the observance of this obligation or fidelity to one's promise, oath, allegiance, etc. So there you go. You got 3 different but very similar ideas of what faith is. Generally speaking, it seems like it boils down to a belief of something about something else, whether it's a person, a thing, what have you. Something as simple as believing in God. Faith is more of an unseen concept. You just have to take it for what it is. Whereas in religion, can still be about the unseen, but there are rules and observances and rituals that go along with it. So with that being said, I'm going to explore what faith I have, because I've kind of been wandering. It's like I've never really known what this friend or that friend believes in or has believed in. So I thought it was time that I actually sat down and take a look at what they believed in, and actually looked at what I believed in, and see if it still is true, or if through this discovery of faith and belief and what makes a person believe and what drives a person in this world, if it's still the same or if it has changed. So I could talk all day about religion, but I'm generally not a religious person. I'm more faith-driven in some things. But, you know, it is what it is, you know? I mean, just because I don't have a religion doesn't mean I have faith. And I think where I'm going with this is, if I don't have a religion, then what exactly is it that I believe in? What is it that I have faith in that allows me to live my life, to believe in something, to be involved in something, to do something for the community, for myself, for my family? What is it? So this is the trip that I'm taking, and I hope you'll enjoy my little journey with me. What is my faith? What is it in the right now that I define as my faith? Well, it's more of how I describe myself is how I define my faith. At this present time, I consider myself pagan. Not necessarily Wiccan, but pagan in general, Buddhist, with some belief in Native American ideologies, earthy, natural, primal, tribal. This is very like core elements of an earth-based belief structure. Oh, I forgot, there was one other main concept that goes with my belief structure, and that's of science. I believe that humans, as they are right now, have science to explain how the world works. I can't help but think that we were given clues on how the world / universe works. And science is, in a way, a tool to understand that. So I don't have anything against it. I can totally believe that you study apes and fish and the world, every aspect of the world, and you can see how we've grown from it and how we can learn from it. But I'm also very aware of the unseen world, the magical world, and I can totally understand that there are things that will never be explained. Science will never be able to explain some things because right now we don't have the concepts and the understanding of the actual brain to understand how some of these things work. Maybe we never will, but maybe we will down the road. Maybe science will clear more mysteries up. But there's always going to be stuff that is just purely unseen that we cannot and never will understand, no matter how hard we try. I just wanted to point out from my friend Nate that he said something that really struck me. I'm agnostic because I believe that it is impossible for man to truly know beyond a doubt the full extent of the hidden truths of the universe that it may hold for us. What I'm saying is science is a way for us to explain some of the things that we don't understand. And, Nate pointed out very well, maybe we'll never understand everything. There are things that are destined to never be understood. The reason I have a lot of focus on paganism is because of the core elements that go with a lot of pagan religions, because of the duality between the mother goddess and the primal god, in some cases called the horned one. So you got, or even simpler than that, Mother Earth, Father Time, the two core elements that run the entire spectrum of the world, the universe as we know it. This balance between the feminine and the masculine, the day and the night, is something I find very comforting. It's like with balance comes peace. So you have to have balance. You can't have one over the other. Too much dark, too much light, too much female, too much masculine. Anything can throw things out of balance. So with a lot of the Wiccan and pagan beliefs that I've grown accustomed to, that I follow the basic concepts of that faith, that idea, is that the world is one giant duality. You've got one half, and together it makes a whole, and that from that makes the world, the universe, life as we know it, continue. But also with that, you get Buddhism. Well, why would I believe in Buddhism? It's kind of massively different, because Buddhism, while it is in some aspects some people consider religion, it's definitely just a faith. I've always believed in reincarnation and the concept that things cycle around. It's like why I believe that there's balance between the worlds. You have, you go through life, you learn lessons, you die, and you come back. Because until you can learn about the world around you, you're never going to progress forward. So the idea of having to go through multiple lives definitely makes sense to me. I mean, it only makes sense because you're not going to learn everything the first go around. You have to do things multiple times to get it down pat. Like riding a bike or learning how to ice skate, which after 10 years I did that last week. and that was an interesting endeavor. But you know, you have to practice. You have to do things over and over again to make it work. So I can totally see and believe that the world as we know it has cycles, and that sometimes you have to learn things multiple times, you know, take different tries at it to get it right. But there's also the idea that Buddhism believes in karma and suffering, and that the world is filled with suffering, and the only way you can get beyond that is by living, going through reincarnation, and if you make a mistake, you have karma that you kind of have to pay back before you can end the suffering to move on to the next plane, which is nirvana, which is basically Buddhist's form of heaven. So I can see that. I mean, you know, I agree there's suffering all over the place. So I'm like, well, if I can find a way to not suffer, then I'm a better person for it. Therefore, I'm one step closer to achieving nirvana or some equivalent there of this peaceful state. So, but someone that I had touched base with gave me a really good frame of reference, that the main belief of Buddhism is cause and effect. What you do, have done, your cause, affects the outcome of your life, the effect. That concept just makes sense. I mean, how much more sense can you possibly make from just that what you do affects other things down the way? You know, cause and effect, plain and simple. But I want to thank Paul from YouTube for just making it as clear as day that yes, this is what he believes in this, and it's so simple. I mean, in my opinion, I can't see how people can't see that. But I will post his link to his channel, Native American Ideology. For a number of years now, I've been really into Native Americans and belief structure, their mythologies, how they've lived, how they've suffered, how they've persevered. And from that, I've taken a lot because, again, it's very earth-based belief structure. Believe that everything has an essence, a soul, whatever you'd like to put to it. But with that being said, you know, everything's got a soul, but the world as we know it can teach us stuff. So their stories are all based on, you know, animals with personalities. You got Coyote the trickster. You have to learn, you know, that sometimes you're going to get tricked. How can you see that? For instance, Lakota Sioux believe in Wankantanka, which is the divine one. For them, that's what God is. He's the divine spirit, the one that kind of watches over them. And there's all these other various stories about animals and people that are used for these people, for the Sioux and the Hopi and the Navajo, to teach a lesson. In a way, it's kind of like Aesop's fables. You have stories that teach a moral or a lesson. And in some ways, you can even equate those fun little fables into Bible parables. The Bible's got lots of stories that are told to teach a lesson. And I can't think of a better way to show you that the world has many different ways of teaching. You know, people have these stories, whether they're Aesop's fables for children, the Native American stories for the Native Americans themselves, and for others that are learning about their culture, to teach how they see the world, how they live and interact with the world, how they can make themselves a better person. But it also goes back to the Bible. You know, the Bible has these stories, these parables that say, okay, this person did this, and this is the result, a cause and an effect. So that's a little bit about my faith. It's very earth-based, very, in a way, primal and tribal, and just understanding that the world I live in has a cause and effect. And if I can work on how I interact with my world, I can have the cause and the effect balance itself out so that it's not necessarily anything bad. If I control the cause, I can control the effect. While I was at my favorite coffee shop, this is maybe like 6 months ago, sitting in a coffee shop, you pick up on conversations. And there were two of the baristas were having a conversation about learning. And I kind of was paying a little bit of attention in the background. And the one guy was talking about how when it comes to learning, and of course I'm not going to get the wording exact how he had put it, but this is pretty close. This is what I was able to deduce from it. That learning should involve the act of curiosity and wonder. To wonder makes you curious, and curiosity leads to the seeking out of knowledge of some sort. That's the basic idea behind that. And what he was explaining was he thought that if people in the world were more apt to wonder about things, that this would lead to curiosity about the world and possibly finding solutions to problems. So if someone is wondering about how to feed people in a war-torn country and they don't know how to do it, they start wondering about it. They're like, well, I got my curiosity is piqued. How can they start thinking about possible solutions to feeding the hungry people in a war-torn country? So cut to later, when I started thinking about my own self and my own beliefs, faith and religion. And at that time, two of my friends had major changes in their belief structure. One friend was a little bit stronger in her conviction. She had a specific belief. And she now was more connected to that belief. It got stronger. And another friend completely switched gears. She went from a very paganistic belief, she actually was a witch for a while, to becoming saved and following basically a complete opposite path from what she had been. And she was that much better for it. It's like for her going from believing in witchcraft to believing in Christ and God and the Holy Father being someone that she could turn to because of her own personal issues in her life, and finding, to quote her from something she said, that she finally found a father who wouldn't abandon her, because her father had been not in her life as much in the last couple years, and he had gone off in his own way, and she'd felt really hurt, betrayed, and abandoned. So it made her a stronger person, and she was starting to understand herself more, and because of that, making herself a better person. Alrighty, so I went and wrote up a 4-question survey to kind of get some very general answers. I mean, it's very simple. They're very basic questions. But I just wanted a basic framework to start with to kind of get the ball rolling on what I really wanted to define. So, plain and simple. Question number 1 is, what do you, meaning myself, define as faith? I've always thought of faith as the belief in a God or gods. First off, when I was younger, it was just God, because I didn't really understand that there were more gods, goddesses, deities out there to believe in. But it's basically faith is the belief in a God or gods, a higher power. And then later on, faith included faith in people, events, and things. Question number 2. What is your faith? Meaning, what is my faith? Like right now, I kind of talked about this earlier. Mostly right now I'm looking for some answers, but the way I define myself is, for the last several years, I have been pagan / Wiccan. Last couple years it's been more Wiccan, witchcraft, but I still just kind of say pagan as a general definition, general term for myself. But while I have that label put on me, I'm still just a little kind of, well, I'm confused. So I still feel connected to paganism and Wiccan and witchcraft, but I've moved away from the witchcraft aspect and just kind of gone to a more paganistic view of things. Why have you, myself, chosen this path? It's kind of a lengthy question to go into, and I mentioned some of it earlier on. But growing up, I was raised loosely Catholic. My mom was raised Roman Catholic, my dad Protestant, although he is less focused on it. There wasn't a lot of like defined Protestantism growing up. It was just that's what he grew up with for himself, but he never focused any of his personal beliefs on me. We went to church on Easter and on Christmas. I was taught the Bible stories, but that was about it. I mean, I knew the very general concepts of religion. And we would go to the Roman Catholic church that my mom went to. So that's kind of my basic framework. Like I said, we go on Easter, and Easter was a time for blessing the basket with all the yummy Easter foods, the Easter eggs, the ham, even the butter shaped like a lamb, which I always thought was cute. I'm like, why do we have to eat the cute little buttery lamb? And my chocolate Easter bunnies would all get blessed. And then Christmas time rolled around. There was, when I was younger, certainly church services kind of stopped going when I was a little older. But there was decorating the tree, Christmas carols, Christmas cookies, and the store, the nativity. And I knew about it, but it never really made a huge impact on me. It wasn't until the last couple years that I've learned to appreciate the nativity story for what it is, and Christmas has now become a holiday for family, for getting together, for peace, for love. For me, less emphasis on the presents, but more about the family unit, the spending time with those you love, enjoying good food, good friends, and to some extent giving each other presents. Although for me, I really enjoy giving presents. I don't try to focus on the giving, the getting of the presents. I don't try to focus on getting presents. I like giving presents to people and enjoy watching them open their presents and being totally surprised. But anyway, on to high school. High school was a very confusing time for me. In amidst all the clutter of that, sophomore year of high school, I joined the after-school Bible club. And it was just one day a week they would meet after school, and there would be a topic, and we'd discuss Bible verses and how it related to us as people and the world and what, what the Bible verses meant to us. And in a lot of cases, I would sit there and I wouldn't always participate. I was more of a listener. But it certainly gave me more insight into a faith that I'd grown up with, but I didn't really pay a lot of attention to. But at the same time, while they were very welcoming and they encouraged questions and just let me kind of observe, I didn't feel immediately connected to a lot of these ideas and concepts. So I kind of stopped going. There really wasn't a point where I said, no, I'm not going anymore. I just, in some cases I had to go use my after school time for math class or French class. But it just kind of, I weaned myself off of it. Because when I met my best friend midway through high school, she was more into Wicca, the actual Wicca. And, had the gods and the goddesses of the Celtic world. And in some aspects, I used my love of Greek and Roman mythology to kind of transfer that knowledge into the Celtic world. And I got to really understand that a lot of the gods and goddesses from the different, Greek, Roman, the Celts, Sumerian, Babylonian, they're all very similar. Different names, but all very similar, what they are in charge of, what they're protectors of. So from her, I got more knowledge about different deities and different ideas, and I got into Wicca. And from there, I met more people, into college and post-college that got me into witchcraft, which I don't always agree with necessarily everything that is specifically like witchcraft related, but it pulled me in and I saw a lot of things that I liked. Now I'm taking a step back to kind of like look at what I currently know and believe and see what it is. Maybe narrow down my belief structure. So, question number 3.5/4. Depends upon how you want to look at it. If there was a change to your mind, faith, why? I think for me, I've changed a lot because I haven't known more, and when I actively seek more, I become more informed, and I can understand more about the world, more about myself even. So, for me, I believe that every faith I've ever had, every belief I've ever had, at any point in my life has served a purpose. Now, at various points in my life, things have changed, understandings have changed, therefore faith has changed. So what works for me? What works for me is believing in the world around me, believing that there are things that I can't see and I'll never understand, that I can feel the earth under my feet when I walk in the grass barefoot, that I can sit in a quiet room listening to some really peaceful music and focus my energies away from the stress-filled life that is Cindy. I go to a therapist who's a third party in my life that is not biased, to help me find some additional peace. I plant flowers. I bake cookies. I read books. I watch movies. I go ice skating with my husband. I hang out with my friends. I poke fun at really bad movies. I play Guitar Hero. I drink a glass of champagne on New Year's Eve. I open Christmas presents on Christmas morning. I do all these things. This is stuff that I believe in. Friends, family, good times, knowledge, lessons learned, people to live with, love with. I mean, here's something for you. My friend AskCarrieLee, who's got a wonderful YouTube channel called AskCarrieLee, and she bakes the most awesome cookies through the Cape Cod Cookie Company. I highly recommend. I will leave links for you to go check out her stuff. Said, I would say that I lean more towards agnostic. Agnostics are not just those that question the existence of God. That's actually a fallacy that most people have. Agnostics believe that there may be a higher power, and if there is, it's likely way out of the realm of our ability to comprehend. If there is a God, performing rituals and acts in his name seems silly. To believe that he created us in his image, why not a dog, a whale, a cow, or any other beings that he created, is the ultimate in human arrogance. To date, I have had 18 responders to my survey. It's not exactly the most objective survey that I would have liked to have had, but it certainly gave me some insight to my friends and what they believe in, and more understanding for myself, and given me an idea of where I can actively seek some more answers to my queries. There were a few surprising answers. I got 6 people out of the 18 that claimed being agnostic/atheist. But each of those 6 answers were entirely different answers. I may post an additional little mini blog about some of those later down the line. But each of those 6 answers were like vastly different. I kid you not, like everything under the sun. I couldn't have made this stuff up if I wanted to, but they all had a very similar feel. I had 3 people who said specific faith in humanity/individuals with no emphasis on higher power. I had one atheist that told me he believed in God. He said, God to me, instead of being some all-powerful entity that watches over us, is instead the very universe itself and all that resides within it. Yeah, he's basically an atheist that believes in God, but not God as an all-powerful entity, just a godlike force that is the universe itself. So, I mean, that's what he said. He actually said that, you know, in a way he considers himself an atheist, but he still believes in a higher power. I think that's pretty powerful stuff when someone can actually say, I don't believe in God, but I believe in a higher power, but still can call themselves an atheist, because there's so many different ways you can define yourself. I'm very much a person who can respect people for their beliefs. And I mean, I wouldn't have done this survey if I didn't have some respect for different faiths. I mean, I can believe in faith, you know, in different people's faiths, religions, beliefs. I can see her going to church and being involved in church activities, or reading the Bible, Quran, Torah, you know, whatever book you believe in, and praying and meditating are all means of getting closer to God, goddess, gods, or just a greater sense of the universe. You know, the universe can be a deity in and of itself, I suppose. You know, as someone who is so busy with my own life, it's kind of, I've chosen the agnostic path because it seems easier for me right now with all the stuff that I do. I can see all the people who call themselves agnostics or even atheists are doing what's right for them, because it's not easy. I mean, this is pretty hefty stuff when you're thinking about it. CarrieLee said agnostics and atheists do things in their daily lives, our daily lives, because they are the right things to do. Not because someone else tells them that we must, but it's right for them. My friend Nate said, I have yet to see any evidence of such a being as God. And I cannot reconcile the lack of divine intervention where it's most needed with any higher power that I would want to worship. So for Nate, he's like, I don't see proof that God exists, so I'm not going to believe it. Like my friend Jane has said in her response, I've come to believe that my faith is more about humans having the ability to rise above themselves and to do good things for each other. You know, it's faith that mankind can do great things to aid others in humanity, in the world. Again, it's simple. It's the real world. And then there's some completely different takes on faith. My friend Scott, who is kind of like a no-nonsense kind of gentleman, said that I believe that the Creator God created all of the other religions: Judaism, Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, Shintoism, paganism, even satanic worship. I believe that the Creator God lets these religions exist because as a Creator God, there must be free choice to believe or not. And if not, then something must be believed in. Even the choice not to believe in a Creator God is still a choice of belief. So what Scott seems to say is, so maybe every faith and religion serves a purpose for each individual person. Well, here's something else to think about. My friend Judy said this to me. While I am here on earth, I choose to make the best of it. Look positive on every situation. Try to make the world a better place, even if it means just to make a smile on someone's face when they're having a bad day. It's probably one of the best answers I've gotten. Straightforward, simple. You can't get much better than that. And Judy's a practicing Catholic who clearly believes in God. She goes to church every Sunday. And that's her faith, and she uses that. And she's someone who has seen a lot of adversity through her life because she has, and I don't know the exact name of it, but it's this really strange spinal condition where she's got holes in her spine. So the spinal fluid leaks out, and when it gets too low, it causes intense headaches, so she can't sit or stand for very long. And she lives with a constant state of pain. I mean, she's always got a headache. And she actually had to go to therapy because she can't feel one of her legs very well. So she has to learn how to walk so she knows that she's stepping on her foot instead of just going to tumble over. And for someone who has that much pain and has to work that hard to do just simple things, I'm amazed, you know, that she can still believe in something. Because, and here's another little quote from her, I've always believed that there is a higher being. I have always believed that there is a higher being than me, and my choice for that being is God. I practice the Catholic religion because I like the structure. However, I also believe that every religion has its own rules and regulations, and these are not necessarily God's rules or regulations. I know the Bible is a story written by men, and therefore know it might not be exact. Living here on earth is not easy, and it sure helps me to know that someone greater than any human being is guiding me to make the right decisions and to cope with life. Is that someone who, despite having a condition that gives her a lot of pain, and, you know, has times where she ends up in the hospital because she's got so much pain, but yet she can still look at the world as a beautiful place. And for her, it gives her structure to get through life, you know. But she's also a very positive person, and she can totally see and believe in humanity, and that things she does makes the world a better place, even if it just means putting a smile on somebody else's face. My friend Moo also sent a really good response. She said, when she sent her response, she said something that really clicked. Something as cliche as, well, things just fall into place. But it fits here. She said it about her travels and trials through life and faith and believing. I believe that everything happens for a reason, and that it's what keeps me going. I, meaning Moo, is still on the fence about the Holy Trinity, God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit, but I do believe in a higher power. I'm still not as religious as my grandmother was or my mom is. I haven't felt the Spirit or haven't been born again. I leave that to others, but I am comfortable with my faith. I am comfortable with my faith and how I live as a person. That's pretty cool coming from someone who has gone from growing up Presbyterian to going to a Methodist church. She's a choir director, and she does a lot with her church community events and whatnot. I mean, we're all people, and we're all real. All of our faiths mean something to somebody somewhere along the line. I'm still looking at a lot of what people wrote. I mean, I read every single response that I got back. I couldn't use everything because there's just a lot of good quotes and comments and whatnot that this would be more of a documentary if I used everything. But I mean, I'm starting to realize that this journey we're on are something everybody has to go through. The trials, the troubles, the good times, the bad times. But it's entirely up to you on how you live your life and how you love and how you believe. And use that. Use that for what it is. Use your belief to fuel your life, your family's life, and the world. Use it to make a better place for everybody. So I leave you with warm spirits and laughter, blessings and peace. Bye.